Good afternoon, Franklin County. We're here for our holiday edition of Talk of the County. I'm Kenneth Wilson, your county administrator, and I'm here today with Joe Lombardi, the CEO of the Solid Waste Authority of Central Ohio. And we're going to have a stimulating conversation about waste. I know that's hard to believe, but by the end of this episode, you're going to have a whole new thought on solid waste that you may consider trash, but it's another man's treasure, literally. Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, Ken, thank you, first of all, for having me on today. I hope that we can make this enjoyable for our folks today. So I've been with the Solid Waste Authority for just over 2 years. Prior to that, I spent 32 years with the city of Columbus in various positions. I was most recently Mayor Ginther's finance director from 2016 to 2022. Prior to that, I was at Public Utilities for about 15 years. I was in the Central Purchasing Office for about 10. A couple years at Rec and Parks. So most of it was been in administration, procurement, and fiscal work.
So you were money, power, playgrounds, and now solid waste.
Yeah, so I guess I've done it all. I guess when you look at it that way, I don't know about the power part, but definitely the fiscal, the procurement, and playgrounds. Yeah, I had a lot of fun in those 32 years.
You know, the Columbus Department of Public Utilities is literally a powerhouse when you think about the impact it has on residents' lives.
Yeah.
And the thing that's connected is you are now in charge of a public utility that people don't really think about unless it gets dusk and things haven't moved from off their curb.
Yeah.
That's when it gets to be both a public health and a public utility issue in a hurry if it doesn't get off the curb. That leads me to asking you, for our listeners, who is SWACO and what role do you play in the greater community here in Franklin County and the region?
Yeah, so SWACO is one of 52 solid waste districts that were created through House Bill 592 back in 1988. State of Ohio passed that House bill to create 52 distinct districts to combat really out of state waste that was coming into Ohio, but more importantly to take away the reliance of landfills and to create programs for recycling, reducing waste coming into our landfills. So we are one of 52 solid waste districts here in Ohio. We're a little unique in a sense that we own and operate the landfill as well as do programs. Many of your solid waste districts throughout Ohio are just the program side of it, and they report directly to the county. And the landfills are typically run by, a private company. But here in Central Ohio, we are a single county. We take care of all of Franklin County, all 41 communities within Franklin County.
Just to give our listeners perspective, being that we're the largest county in the state, we're 1.4 million people, and everyone generates waste. It's just a fact of life. Tell our listeners about the sheer number of tons that this landfill processes over time, or just say annually. It's a big enough number just to talk about annually what it does.
Yeah, annually we bring into the landfill about 1.3 million tons a year. It's about roughly 20-some thousand a month if you did the math. But each year we bring in on average about 1.2, 1.3 million tons a year into this landfill.
And it doesn't magically get here. I mean, it's a complicated system that requires individuals with expertise in logistics just to ultimately get it here to what those of us that know the landfill fondly refer to it as the hill. This is probably one of the highest hills that exists in Franklin County. Maybe I would challenge it. Maybe, it's top 3, if not the highest from looking down upon the city. You talk about what happens from curbside to it ultimately getting here to the landfill, meaning it's picked up by a network of organizations that are in the waste business, like Rumpke Waste Management, and local municipalities that collect residential trash. How does it, how does it get from point A to the landfill, with the transfer stations role and all of the logistics that are involved?
Yeah, so as an example, if you took the city of Columbus, for example, their trucks will pick up on a daily basis, depending on what their route is. And then they either bring it to our transfer station. We have one located on Morris Road and one located here on the south side at Jackson Pike. They will dump that trash into our transfer station floor. We have equipment that will then take it, put it into a big trailer. It's like a semi-truck trailer, and that is hauled here to the landfill and then dumped. Or you can bring it directly here to the landfill. For example, some of our other communities might use a private hauler. They will pick up in their community at the curbside. They'll drive it here. They'll come through our gates. They come up to where we're working that day on the hill, and they dump their waste. They'll roll out, and they go right back and do it all over again.
And also, the landfill can't accept everything. You can't accept certain things. So part of the Solid Waste Authority's job is to ensure that both commercial and residential customers are aware of the proper recycling of particular goods, such as lead-based paint, such as pharmaceuticals, such as let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about what you just can't simply throw away. We all are familiar with bulk pickup. You know, you got the couch, you call ahead, put the couch outside, the couch disappears.
Yeah, so a lot of the waste that we don't want here is a lot of your hazardous waste. Your batteries, especially the lithium batteries, they cause fires both at our transfer stations and in our landfill. We prefer you not bringing in any hazardous waste such as medical and pharmaceuticals. We don't want to see any of the while we do take the bulk pickup, there's reuse for that. And one of the reasons we decided we would open a recycling center is so that customers have a place to bring batteries, styrofoam, light bulbs, Christmas lights, which many of us who went to plug them in this year found out they didn't work from last year. So we'll accept them there. We have companies who will recycle those, your computers, your TVs. We have a convenience center located at 2566 Jackson Pike, where you can bring all that to us. For your furniture, depending on the use of that furniture, whether it's still useful, there are all kinds of outlets for that. You can bring it to the furniture bank. You can bring it to the Goodwill. Habitat for Humanity has a reuse store where you can bring a lot of that furniture that you don't need anymore and bring it to them, and they'll just turn around and give it to those in need.
And most of us know you got to go to the junkyard for the whole car. You just can't leave a 1986 Chevy El Camino that the engine blows up in and call somebody and they just come and get that.
Right.
You got car recycling and crushing centers and such.
Yeah.
And you don't advise people. Also, listeners, tires. If you replace a tire, you got to pay the fee for the proper disposal of the tire. You can't leave the tire on the curb because the local waste management company is not supposed to pick up
right.
tires.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about our partnership with law enforcement, prosecutor's office, et cetera, in our waste disposal, ensuring that individuals don't illegally dump things in various different ways.
Yeah, Ken, you bring up a great point. Illegal dumping is just a problem. I'm just going to be honest and truthful with your listeners. It's a problem. And so we have a contract and we have a partnership with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for the Environmental Crimes Task Force, where folks can turn folks in that they see illegally dumping, whether it's tires or trash or furniture. We'll investigate that. If we are able to locate the person who illegally dumped, then we'll bring that case to the environmental court. We have a prosecutor on our staff, on Franklin County staff, that's working for the Environmental Crimes Task Force to prosecute those folks that are illegally dumping. Tires is a big problem. We see tires in our streams, in our waterways, and we're trying to protect those as well. We have a contract with Liberty Tire, which is just right up the road. They'll shred those up and turn those into chips, which we actually use here at the landfill as part of our cover. It's a great service to them. We bring our tires to them that we find in the landfill. We just bring them right to them, and they'll chop those up for us, and then we get them back and use them as fill.
Is not a problem so much now, but in Ohio, a lot of leaves fall, and there's a lot of yard waste. Talk to our listeners about the proper thing to do with yard waste and some of the partnerships you all have to make it easier to do the right thing with your leaves and your branches, and after there's a bad storm or an event, how do you get rid of it? If you go out, if Joe or Jane has a chainsaw and they cut up a bunch of wood themselves, you got what do you do with that if you don't have your own fireplace to burn it?
Yeah, so for your leaves, for your yard waste, cutting grass, your grass clippings, we ask people to please put those in, whether it's a trash can that's marked yard waste or in the bags that you can get at your local store, whether it's Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace. Put those outside at your curb. Those are picked up locally in Columbus by Rumpke, and in our other communities are picked up by their private hauler. Those then go to Ohio Mulch and places like that is turned into mulch. Or if you get on our website, we do have information on there on how you can do backyard composting yourself. We can help you with that. We can bring people out to your location and show you how to properly take your yard waste and turn it into composting. We don't want you burning it. We don't want you to throw it into our landfill. It's not what we want. It creates too much methane. So there's outlets for that, for composting and for ComTill. City of Columbus has a ComTill business out on just south of here. That's where a lot of your yard waste will go as well.
So we don't want people to handle their own solid waste disposal
That's true.
in their fire pit.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's not good for air quality, environmental sustainability. We're sitting here with We Recycle. This basket has egg cartons in it. It has the Starbucks cup. It doesn't have the Buckeyes are still alive in the college football playoffs, but I noticed there aren't red cups, the famous red cups and that are
Solos.
popular for tailgating.
Yes, right.
Are not in here.
No.
Those can't be recycled, right?
Those cannot. We're subject to what the recycling processors, in our case here in Central Ohio, is Rumpke. When they determine what they have a market for a recyclable material, they'll let us know, and we let our communities know that those items are now recyclable. For example, they just brought out the clamshells, which all your berries and some of your fruits are in at the store. But right now, solo cups are not recyclable. And I always said, if those are ever become recyclable, tailgate parties are where I'm going to hit, not for tailgate, but to get those recyclables into the
There's a lot of red cups, green cups, blue cups.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. So one of the greatest breakthroughs in recent is to be able to recycle yogurt cups. Is that correct?
That's right.
That was an aspiration for a long time. So now you can recycle yogurt cups.
Yeah, so yoga cups are still pretty new to people. We continue to try to educate people that you can now start putting in your yogurt cups and your cottage cheese containers, your sour cream containers, all those type of containers you can now recycle and put it in your blue bin.
Yeah, you have a great team that educates individuals on recycle right. Like there are some grocery chains that have gone exclusively to paper or cloth bags. But in the meantime, you and your team have been very aggressive in educating people and creating collection points and creative reuses of the bags when we go to your favorite supermarket. I know I use them for, waste baskets around the house.
Right.
When I'm traveling, drop shoes in them. I make sure that they live multiple lives, for the good of our environment. And you have folks on your team, such as I know your director of public affairs, Hannah Greer Brown, has been always educating people on pizza boxes.
Yes.
And how a pizza box need to show up at the curb if it's gonna be effectively recycled.
So Hannah does a great job, as you know. I mean, Hannah is probably our biggest spokesperson, but our biggest spokesperson outside of the office about what we can do in recycling, along with our programs team, which I would say they are second to none here in Ohio, if not in the Midwest. We have some great employees in our programs, like passionate people who really care about the environment, who really work hard each and every day to try to educate one more person. To try to change behavior, Ken, is really tough, as you know. And they work hard each day to get one more person, just one more person, to believe in recycling and doing the right thing for the environment and making us a better place for our children that are coming in behind us. The pizza boxes, there will be a program coming out in January we're going to pilot them with pizza shops around Columbus, where we're putting a sticker on and putting it right on your pizza box as you're handing it to your customer. It says, "Please recycle me." And you'll be able to start putting those pizza boxes right in those blue bins now, no matter what.
Just remove
the circle.
sliver of wax paper.
Yep.
Ensure that there's no cheese.
Yep.
Try to eliminate the number of the debris from your sausages and your greases. Maybe a little bit left, but I think they can still work with that.
Yeah, and it's free. It's going to be free. It's going to be free to those businesses.
And it's going to be free with it. The one thing I do want to put on the record for our listeners is, during this holiday season, commit to recycling your orders that come in various sizes of cardboard boxes. That is a recycling layup. That alone can help SWACO get towards their goal of 70-some-odd% diversion. And cardboard and paper is, while we're making great strides in this community. Joe, talk a little bit about where there's room for improvement there.
Yeah, so
I won't have you talking about organics, because that's going to we don't want to talk about maggots today. That's a messy process of composting. We can get into that on another episode.
That
So
could take
let's
a
just
whole
talk
hour
cardboard.
itself,
Yeah, let's talk about cardboard. Let's not talk about magnets and all that, maggots and all that.
Let me take a little step back and talk a little bit about our waste characterization study that we did in 2018. Literally went through our trash here at the landfill and at the transfer stations to see what was coming in and what didn't need to be coming in, so to speak. What we found in that study was 75% of what comes in our landfill, that's that 1.2 million we talked about, or 75% did not need to be in that landfill. That could be reused, recycled, repurposed, and we'll talk about composting on another day.
Nope, I got another topic, but it's cleaner. Keep going.
But the cardboard is like you said, is the easy layup. It's the breakaway layup. We see cardboard coming in here all day long, and with folks buying more and more things online and the Amazons of the world and FedEx and UPS boxes, those can just be broken down and placed right in that blue bin. Very simple, very simple. So much of what you're going to have this holiday season, you can break down all your boxes that your presents come in. We do have online, Ken, a green holiday guide. If you just get on SWACO.org and just search for a holiday guide, it'll give you all the tips you need. But cardboard is a big problem in our landfill. I tell a story about having a local state official here early on in my career, and she had asked me, what is the one thing that drives you crazy when you come up here? And I said, the amount of cardboard that I see in this landfill to me, is crazy, because cardboard has been recyclable way back. I mean, this goes way back.
It's the easiest. This right here, this is the easiest.
Yeah.
Right here, this
And
cardboard's the easiest something to get rid of.
no sooner do I tell her that, a truck dumps an entire truck full of nothing but cardboard boxes. That wasn't even a setup. We didn't set that
Right.
up. We didn't.
You got a box cutter. If you got a box cutter, you can just,
It's not
when
very
you come
hard.
in, all of
Not
your
very-
stuff come in. And right now, everybody, you see the trucks zooming, everybody getting all of these boxes dropped off on their front porches. And when you get there, open the box, cut the box up, fold the box up,
Put it right in that blue
recycle it.
Put it right in.
And SWACO also has neighborhood spots to where,
Yep.
no matter where you live, you can put it all in your trunk and you can drive it and recycle it there.
Yep.
Another recycling layup, in my opinion, during the holidays, in particular when you're entertaining and you have a bunch of people at your house, is these plastic single-use bottles when you're drinking water. Sure, we promote a metal bottle. SWACO provides many grant programs with colleges and places such that you
Yep.
fill up your bottle. It's a great deal, but we still use single-use bottles for convenience. But the key is to recycle them. And straws, try to get rid of all of the plastic stuff in general is what we want to deal with. Another area I want to touch on is that when there's a lot of science in landfilling. Mm-hmm. And when you create a cell, which is a large hole that's lined with layers and such, and you put solid waste within those spots, it creates methane gas. Methane gas does what methane gas could do if not handled with the proper science. Right. Talk about not how SWACO responsibly manages that through science, but how SWACO has partnered with the private sector to make it an economic development initiative for the authority.
Yeah, great question and a great point to make here, Ken, is the fact that obviously all landfills produce methane. We have a private public partnership with a company that has a location right on our property called Archaea Energy, and all of the methane that is produced in our landfill is under vacuum. Therefore, that methane is then pushed into their building, which is cleaned up turned back into natural gas and put back into the gas line, the Columbia gas line for use as natural gas as a clean energy. And we receive revenue to about $4 to $6 million a year from the sale of that gas going back. And I don't know the exact number of homes that we can heat with that gas, but it is a great economic development for us. And we begin doing that the day we build a cell. So we build a cell and we put the gas pumps right in that cell before we even begin to start putting trash, so we can capture that methane day one when they start putting trash in it. So they've been a great partner. They always do the right thing for us. We have great partners with them and Marathon Gas as well.
What's the name of the latest sale under development? They seem to, some of them have been named after Hummers. And that's my first, I normally don't do commercial things, but it's kind of funny that when we used to talk about sales, I'm like, it's named after Hummers.
H6. You know, I asked that question before to staff and they said that's just the way they started. So they just began making them, everyone got a number. So H1 was the first one, and I think we're up to H8 now. So
why we can't like name the sales after like they names tropical storms and hurricanes?
we could do that.
Sale Buckeye.
We could do that.
Sale Ben Franklin or something with a Franklin County. Yeah, why we can't just name the sale something? You know,
Well,
give a sale a little bit merch, R2D2 sale or something.
Well, yeah, it is a good question, and it's one that I did ask, and they just say that is the national standard for landfills. Name them H or whatever letter they give it to them. I'll have to research that a little bit more.
We about to go even deeper in the geekness right now with my next question. We about to go deeper in the geekness, if that is at all possible. We're about to address the topic of landfill life.
Okay.
Where you have to go through this whole complicated process of having a flyover with some engineer looking at how much and determining how long that a cell and other cells that can be built, how long can you run out of space to dispose of people's stuff?
So I'm glad you asked me that. I've been asked that a lot recently. I think a lot of times people are asking me that question because we hear about the growth of Central Ohio and we hear about how much the population is going to grow. And I believe, like you said, like a public utility, people are worried. They're worried about where's that trash going to go. So we did what we call a permit to install, which means we expanded the landfill approximately about four or 5 years ago.
I'm glad you spelled that out and didn't say PTI. PTI is
permit to install, which basically means that you're expanding.
You know, people like us use acronyms. We had to get corrected all the time.
Government loves acronyms.
Spell out government love acronyms.
And so at that point, 5-6 years ago, with the addition of the expansion, we were able to secure the landfill through 2062. Now, I'm going to make sure that I cover our bases here and say that was based on 2017-18 population. And as we continue to grow, if people don't take it serious to reduce the amount of waste that they put into that landfill, that 2062 may become 2050. It may become 2040. And to try to site a landfill is going to be very difficult and time consuming. It will take years to try to site a new landfill. In Central Ohio, I don't think you'll ever see another landfill. I can't guarantee you that, but the land that we have won't be here. They just don't make land anymore.
You're right.
They just don't build it.
Right. And you can't, everybody can't and don't want to be the neighbor to a landfill.
That's right.
So you need so much acreage
Yeah.
to make a landfill possible. That's what makes siting so difficult.
Yeah.
Because on where we sit right now is facilities and a landfill itself. But because of the nature of this operation, this business, what does SWACO own to the east or to the north of 665 in sheer acreage? I know it's over 340 some odd.
Yeah, just to the north of our entrance is about 350 some acres, and then to the east of that is probably another, couple hundred acres. But, we sit, our landfill's on about 200 plus acres that we're permitted to use. You can't use all the land for a landfill. You have to have so much distance between the roads or residents. So that sounds like a lot of acreage. But then again, as you said, we're an urban landfill, which is very unique.
Very unique.
And I'm happy to say that our partnership with Grove City and our relationship with the townships has been really, really good. But we have to think of them when we're expanding and when we're trying to do things here in this particular location. So while we have nearly 500 plus acres of land available, doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be able to put a landfill there. You're going to have to go through the Ohio EPA, number one. Number two, you're going to have to do community outreach. A lot of people don't like these things in their backyards. And so if we begin to feel like this landfill won't last that long, we'll probably have to start looking at property elsewhere.
Center of this county, is Columbus, the capital city, 14th largest city in America. And to think about the amount of acreage that we have set aside for a landfill, I would venture to guess many communities that are above us on that population spectrum don't have this much land to use. So it's an economic development advantage, but it could shrink quickly.
That's right.
Without proper planning. And speaking of planning, talk about why SWACO has strategic partnerships with entities such as the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission and entities like Jobs Ohio, et cetera.
Yep. So great question, Ken. Really, MORPC helps us in a variety of ways, especially with the population and regionalism. I think that's becoming a big, big subject right now is regionalism. A lot of people a lot of organizations, a lot of government entities just can't do it themselves. They're going to need to work with outside their regions to solve problems. And MORPC really helps us in terms of their sustainability efforts that they're trying to do for the region that they cover. We're part of that. And so anytime we can get data from them that tells us about the population growth and what's the next economic growth that's coming, we can begin to prepare so that we don't get behind the eight ball, so to speak. And then you also have the City of Columbus and Franklin County working with them as well in terms of their development and what they're trying to do. And how do we get involved to make sure that we can start to put some of our programs in place in some of these new developments and things of that nature. You mentioned earlier, Ken, if I can go back about the acreage that we have, some of that we're looking at as an economic development opportunity for us. And not necessarily do we want to put the landfill, let's just say north of the landfill. We work with Jobs Ohio and One Columbus to try to find companies who want to put their business here in the Grove City area. And hopefully they're sustainable companies. Maybe they make EV battery parts. Maybe they make plastic supplies from plastic that has been recycled. And we're looking for companies that are sustainable.
Right, right. Great
So,
opportunity there.
great
And I wanted to
opportunities.
get back to that.
Yeah,
You want neighbors, but they need to be compatible neighbors.
that's right.
Because just to our south, we have a huge battery plant for EVs under development.
Yeah,
Maybe they're, suppliers.
Yeah.
We're just a heartbeat away, from a logistics standpoint,
yeah.
to being able to support that large scale battery plant.
Yeah, and there's this little development going on, in New Albany, little place
Just a
called
small-
Intel. Yeah,
Just a few fabs.
Yeah, and so they're going to have second and third tier suppliers for their chips, and like you said, there's an EV battery plant right 20, maybe 25 miles from here. That one of their suppliers we would love to bring here and put on that land that we have across from the landfill, and it's an economic development not only for us and for our region, but really for Grove City in general. There's jobs that they will benefit from the income tax to provide additional services to the residents of Grove City, property tax that they will be able to use for additional services for their residents. So really looking forward to 2025 to sit down with different organizations to talk about what is the best, highest use that we could do for that.
Right.
property.
And what positions SWACO in such an excellent place with the fact that most of your land that you're speaking of, Joe, is truly shovel ready.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
has utilities.
Yes.
The infrastructure exists in places already.
Yeah. So of the 350 acres, I believe just a little over 100 acres is already ready to go. And easily could be connected to the additional.
Coming right off of 665. If anyone's
what?
coming right off of 65, they see Gateway. They
Yeah.
see Bill Lott's Way.
Yeah.
That was named after a great neighbor that passed away
Yep.
a long time.
Yep.
Remember Bill Lott's. That road is meant to be developed one day.
That's right.
Have a lot of jobs being
Yeah.
created and people making a living.
Great access to all the major freeway systems. I mean, right off of 665, you've got 270 going east and west. You've got 71 going both north and south, and it's turn at a light, turn at another light, and you're on the freeway. So from a supplier standpoint, the ease of getting in and getting out is, I can't think of any other place in central Ohio right now that has land that's sitting right off of a freeway like that is developable.
And there's talk about another connector that would even create greater access.
Yes.
Away.
Mhm.
So it's great potential here. For the Southern Gateway in the Franklin County.
Yeah.
I think that with FedEx and the amount of medical development that is occurring in the vicinity, Grove City is going to be a great beneficiary of these investments. Let's talk about the economic benefits to recycling. And let's further elaborate on how it supports our economy.
So beside the environmental benefits of recycling, recycling does bring millions and millions of dollars to companies. There's nearly 400 companies just in the central Ohio region that rely on recycled material for their product. We have one of the largest, if not the largest, recycler of plastics just up the road in Hilliard, ADS. When I met with them, your milk jugs, as you know, ADS is short for advanced drainage system, which is stormwater drains that you probably see the black piping that they put in a lot of our developments around town and all over the country. They told me that you could give them every milk jug that comes in and they still wouldn't have enough for the kind of demand that they need for their. Now think about that. If everybody in Central Ohio would just bring their milk jugs to them, it's still not enough. Still not enough. So there's an economic value to them. There's companies that rely on this cardboard we talked about to make paper, to make additional packaging. There's companies that take glass that turn that into other products. We have a young gentleman here, an entrepreneur, who does take the little plastic tabs that are on your bread that I always have to take off and put the twisty tie, because that little plastic thing makes me crazy. So I always use a twisty tie. But he'll
Better than a finger knot.
That's true. Now my wife does finger knots, and I can't ever get them undone. So if she's listening, please tell her you don't need to tie it so tight that I can't get out the bread that I want to eat with. But he makes countertops with the internal parts of computers and these little plastic tabs that come with your bread bags. So here's a young man who's trying to make a name and a company for himself, and he's relying on us to get him this recycle. So, the economic benefits are just tremendous. I mean, and it helps our resources, our natural resources. Again, those aren't infinite. You can't keep digging for material to make virgin products.
You make an excellent point when you touched on the PVC pipe is needed for everything. But you stimulated my thought about the milk jug. About product packaging, and I think about over the last 50 years, so many things are packaged so differently than they were 50 years ago. But think about a milk jug, listeners. A milk jug that looked the same for 60 years. I gotta ask AI, why has a milk jug not changed before the end of the week? It's a question in my mind. I gotta ask AI. I gotta ask AI anything.
That's right.
So I'm gonna ask AI, why has the milk jug not changed?
And the
Because I don't have any friends at a packaging store.
That's right.
My alma mater, Michigan State University, has one of the best packaging programs, but I'm not there. I'm here in Ohio. Ask them, so I gotta ask that guy. I can find out why air. I know why air is still in a potato chip bag.
Yeah.
Why there's more now, and why is beer packaged differently? Everything. Think about it. So the milk jug don't look that much.
No, it looks the same as it did
Paper
as I was a
cartons are
kid.
pretty much gone.
Right.
You can't say you can see somebody on the side of a milk carton.
No, that's right. That's right. Well, and I'll be honest with you, you make a great point. But there are companies that, for example, Coca-Cola is making such an effort to make all their bottles recyclable. And they have done a tremendous job of trying to educate their customers that every bottle that you see on the shelf is from a recycled bottle. And they went so far, and I had to ask them this question because they turned it on me. The white Sprite bottles, they do that purposely so that they don't have to separate the green anymore, because the Coke bottles were always white. So if you notice, all your Sprite bottles now are clear, and they did that purposely to make it easier for them to single source that recycled material.
I mean, think about this Tide container. If you're more than 30 years old, who would have ever thought that you could go in a grocery store and get something and walk out that would do 64 loads in something this small? You would need like a grocery cart full of these back in 72 to wash 64 loads of clothes.
And you didn't have to dig down and get it all out and still have.
Yeah, let's don't get to talking about the pods that they have today for dishwashers and clothes.
Yeah.
You got to have 100 loads in what you
Yeah.
want. So why does you put the milk carton next to this and they pretty much look the same? So I don't just make this stuff up on Talk of the County. We're really thinking as we go through these telecasts.
Yeah. The milk carton, as you said, has looked the same as I can remember. And
I don't remember it changing. I don't remember changing it. So we're gonna go back to the holidays since this is the a couple nights before Christmas. How would you recommend that people handle live Christmas trees, wreaths, garlands after they get all those little pine needles?
Well, that's the first challenge is you got to clean up all of those pine needles when you're done. And I do want to say, you just reminded me that today is December 23rd. It is my daughter's 30th birthday today. So if she's listening,
Happy birthday,
Danielle. Well,
Happy birthday, Danielle.
we'll
Happy
give her
birthday.
a
That's
shout
a mine. That's a
yeah, now she thinks she's old, right? Now she says she's old. So she's got a long way to go. But back to the trees, those can be placed outside, just like your yard waste. If it's a real tree, a real wreath, you can place those at your curbside on the day that your yard waste is picked up, and those would be picked up by your local service, and then those would be turned into mulch and other products like that. There are also, if you get online, there are locations where you can drop those off in your community. If you get on our website, and again, look for the holiday guide, there's information in there about where you can bring those trees.
LED technology makes this less of an issue and with advances like pre-lit trees, etc. But what do you do with those pesky strings of light that you had to like shake one, and if you can't find just that right one, you're never gonna get the string to work. So you just crumble it up. I'm done with it. My patience is done.
I got a whole trunk full. So we went to plug in like everybody else, and by gum, they didn't work. So we have to go back out and buy a whole new strand. Now we got a strand of 500 lights that don't work. So earlier I had mentioned that there's this recycling convenience center located at 2566 Jackson Pike. You can bring all your string lights there, and we have companies that will take those off our hands and recycle them. Do not put those in your trash bin. Do not put those in your recycling bin, but take them to our recycle center, and we have a bin for you there. When I was there a few weeks ago, it was loaded, and it wasn't even Thanksgiving yet. So people were getting ready, and the first thing you always do, plug those lights in, because you know darn well one of them's out. And if you don't find, like you said, we should have gotten the Christmas lights.
Or you got a bad string that every time you plug it in, you turn them on, you trip a fuse, and the whole house go black. So they ain't got to throw it away.
That's right. Well, we have a recycling center they can bring it to, but unfortunately, you have to go buy another.
You know, another part of Mr. Lombardi, your background that we didn't touch on when we talked about money, and we talked about power, and we talked about playgrounds, and we talked about public utilities, is you have a family history rooted in restaurants. So let's talk about leftover food from holiday meals. How do we dispose of it?
So what I would say to our listeners is send those leftovers home with family and friends first. You can freeze them. You can make something of them the next day. We're a big ham family in the Lombardi household. So I'll be having ham for the next 5-6 days. I'll have ham sandwiches, ham salad. I'll have ham and eggs. I'll have ham all the time. But I would say for your leftovers, definitely keep them and reuse them. Or you could also get on our Save More Than Food website, and it actually gives you a way to decide how much food do you need based on how many people are coming over, so you're not spending all the money to buy all this food that doesn't get eaten. We have a calculator on there that you can say, I'm gonna have 10 people over. These are the kind of food that we want, and it'll tell you about how much food you need for those 10 people. Because so often, as you know, we're in that season right now where you had Thanksgiving, you have the holiday season, you have New Year's Eve, you have bowl games, you have Super Bowl. All you're doing is eating. You're eating, you're having parties, you're having friends over, and you always buy more than you think you need. And you
Yep.
have all these leftovers. And
Yeah, yeah.
what you don't want to do is throw them away. You want to send those leftovers home with your friends and family and reuse them. And we have actually, if I'm not mistaken, there might even be some recipes on there for leftover food.
Because I've always given you Talk of the County bonus content. Mr. Lombardi probably has eaten a lot of ham in his life. And when he talks about the 5 or 6 different ways you can eat ham, listeners, he's a former offensive lineman. So that enough tells you that he's probably had a few vegetables,
Not many.
but he's probably went heavy on protein over his life.
Yeah, and it shows now, see, because you can't eat all that and not do what we did back when I was 20, because you were always lifting and running and moving, so I could eat a whole ham if I had to, or maybe 4 or 5 Big Macs or something.
So you were a high school offensive lineman at Bishop
Reedy.
Bishop Reedy, the blue and gold,
Silver and blue.
silver and blue. The Knights.
Silver Knights.
Silver Knights.
Silver Knights.
Silver Knights.
Not just Knights.
Okay, Silver Knights. Depending on what year it was and what was on their jersey, I think
Yeah,
I might have
sometimes
they might have said Knights.
Yeah.
And then they ordered the uniform,
Yes, sir.
maybe the basketball team jerseys. I saw something when it said the Silver Knights, the Bishop Reedy Silver Knights. And then you went on to play football at Capital. Purple. Purple. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Purple.
Purple. Yep. So yeah, I was fortunate. I was very blessed. Played 4 years at Bishop Reedy. I was blessed my senior year to have won the state championship. Not me personally, but the team was still to this day one of the greatest moments of my athletic career. Played 4 years at Capital University, and again, our senior year we won our conference. Unfortunately, we went into the playoffs that year and had to meet up with Dayton, and that was the end of my career after that game. But I tell people all the time, they said, which one was more fun, winning that the OAC championship or winning a state championship? And I always said it was the state championship because in high school, you're playing with a bunch of kids that aren't going to go on to play anywhere else. In college, you had all those kids that were going to go play and played together. So you really did it with a lot of grinding, and a lot of average and above average kids.
Grit.
Yes, grit. Yeah, that's
Grit.
a good name for it. And so, yeah, I've always, so I was, we ate a lot of ham. Matter of fact,
Pepperoni too, didn't you?
oh yeah, because with pizza place and all, yeah, we have pepperoni, and I like pepperoni sausage and mushroom. That's my favorite. But I'll tell you,
Joe Lombardi special.
the bet.
And mushroom. Mark that down.
Mark it down. That's the one you want.
Pizza of SWACO executive director.
Yeah.
Get a Joe Lombardi.
There you go. And I'll tell you, kid, just now you got me on sports. The year we won the state championship was back when they still played it at the Horseshoe. And when they played, basically, I always called it the carpet, not the turf, because it was this rock hard. You remember that old carpet they had? That was when the track was still around.
Yeah. Before Jesse Owens Stadium.
And we played the day at 11 o'clock, the day after Thanksgiving. And I was so full when I woke up, I thought I'm not a bell play. I'm not. But you get excited and you forget all about that. But yeah, so we played
Adrenaline just
yeah,
just burned through all that
we
stuffing
played
and
at
turkey
11
and
o'clock on the
mashed
Friday
potatoes.
and it was cold.
That was
I remember
that was like the training table Thanksgiving that
Yeah,
you had to play
yeah.
the day after Thanksgiving.
with like 30 plus of family members telling you to eat, and you're like, I don't want to eat.
So
Sorry, Ken. I noticed
you
that
a
on-
guard, right?
I was.
So the highlight of your games was if you asked to pull.
Loved it.
That's about the most
Loved it.
action being a guard
Loved
when
it.
you get to pull
Loved
and, and catch somebody unsuspecting
Best
and
time.
clear them out.
It's the best time. That was probably the play, whether it was a trap or a sweep, which for our listening, usually you're pulling a guard and usually the person that you're trapping or you're blocking is left alone. They pretend like they weren't blocked, which is beautiful because they're not suspecting, the door's open, somebody's knocking.
Yeah, it's the most
Somebody's knocking on the
listeners
door. Don't, you better shut the door.
guard to get the
pull around, swing around, hit somebody unsuspecting.
This is beautiful.
it's just a beautiful thing.
It's much better than the only other advantage that an offensive lineman has and should have is that they know the snap count.
The
Smart ones.
The smart ones. I'm not sure if I'm
Some of them didn't all know the snap count.
No,
But
no,
most of them, if you know
no.
the snap count, you knew you could fire off the
Yeah,
ball first.
yeah. Yeah.
And funny thing, in youth football, they try you out at different positions.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out and Joe, the coach was like, "We want you to try center." I'm like saying to myself, there's no way I'm doing that. Because one, I gotta hike the ball
That's right.
to the quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
So even though I'm snapping the ball, the defender got the chance to get on top of me before I snapped the ball.
That's right. Yeah.
I was the worst center you could ever see. I got replaced after 2 snaps, I believe.
Well,
Because
your first goal is to get the ball to the quarterback. That's your first priority.
I made sure that I didn't know how to do it, that they would say,
Yeah.
no, move him on there.
And that was the day where everybody
Even if it meant going to the bench, I was not going to be a center. That was just not. So I got all the respect in the world for centers.
Yeah,
So
so
they got to look up, but not at least look up.
yeah.
Then they got the quarterback hands between their
Yeah.
legs, and they get to look up, and they got to stab the ball and put the
Yeah.
ball in the quarterback.
Yeah. Quick story. I started out as a fullback, and we got a new high school coach, and he said, Have you ever thought about playing guard? And I said, Are you trying to tell me I'm a slow running back? He said, No, I'm trying to tell you you're a quick lineman. So that's how I ended up as a lineman. So I was like, I'm taking that as a compliment,
At
but
least-
it got me on the field.
It got
So
you on the
That's
field.
right.
At least with guard, like I said, you got to move your feet sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to go.
Most of the time, unless you're the left tackle, in today's game, the left tackle is one of the highest paid, most important
Yeah.
people. You got to have great feet
Yep.
because you're protecting your quarterbacks. That's dominant side.
Yep.
But back in the day, they just asked tackles to just go
Go
forward
forward.
and block. You wasn't doing nothing exciting, wasn't nothing
Yeah.
glamorous about it.
No.
You would just block.
If you were the biggest kid, you were playing tackle.
You was playing tackle,
Yeah.
you wasn't doing nothing but blocking. Wasn't nothing exciting about it.
That's
Wasn't nothing, did nobody pay you no attention for the homecoming game.
No.
You was just one of the dudes just got out there.
The only people that knew
You
you,
don't know a tackle that got on the homecoming court ever.
the only people that knew you as a lineman was your mother and your coach. Other than that, you were
You were one popular dude if you made the homecoming court
I was not on.
in the 70s or the 80s as an offensive tackle. You were one popular dude. They might be out there.
Today,
If they out there, popular. So that didn't get you. You didn't get quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. That were the ones that on the homecoming court.
Not
Quarterback.
not even it was tough. Wasn't no linebacker even
Mm.
on the court.
Quarterback.
So I guess you know, folks, I was never on the homecoming court during my high school football playing days because I didn't meet the prerequisites. Now let's skip and let's talk about electronics. And if somebody received new electronics, where can they take their old devices?
So there's a lot of locations. You can actually some of the best.
I hated to leave the concept around school.
That was
Let's talk
fun.
electronics.
But you can take your electronics. Many of your Best Buys will take them back. But if we have, again, our recycling center, I can't stress that location enough. We will take those off your hands, your laptops, your LED TVs. We do charge for the TVs that come there, but many of your Best Buys, there are locations throughout Central Ohio that will take, especially your computers, your laptop. On our website, if you look under our diversion tab, we do have one specific for electronics that lists out all the different locations that will accept all. So encourage your listeners to just get on SWACO.org and search for whatever they're looking for.
Fortunately, today, televisions aren't hazardous waste. There was a time where televisions were almost hazardous waste.
Yeah.
And there were times where televisions became subjects of our environmental crimes task force due to their mercury content and other things.
Yeah, and so we, believe it or not, at our recycling center, we still get some of the old tube TVs, which is why we unfortunately have to charge you a small fee to dispose of those, because we're handing those off to a recycler who has to deal with the hazardous material that are in some of those old TVs, and some of your old flat screens were, still had some tubes.
Yeah.
Had the big backs on that were heavy.
Some of your old computer monitors
Yeah.
are just
Yeah.
bad as television.
Yep. Yeah. Had that big thing in the back.
Big old thing in the back, sounded like a jet plane when you turn it on. Yeah, those were very green devices. We evolved. Beyond waste management, SWACO offers several of the programs. Can you highlight some of these? Recycle Right, which is a favorite of mine. Save More Than Food is a favorite of mine. Because you're talking about, what we just touched on, how to save leftovers, how to preserve, your fresh vegetables, and the use of glass containers in order to more in a healthier way. I think let's talk about your grant opportunity for the community is extremely important. I want us to touch on. And then your programs for educators in schools. We talked about the water bottle program. And then let's talk about the landfill field tour program. And when is the next one? And then lastly, the drop-off program that I touched on.
Yeah. So you mentioned two of our, what I would call our legacy programs, Recycle Right and Save More Than Food. Those are both educational campaigns that there's just a wealth of information on both of those websites about what to recycle, how to recycle, what to do with any of your food leftovers, the economic impacts of both recycling and food waste. But our grants program, I am just, to me, that is one of the coolest things beside all the things that we do. It's one of the coolest things that we do because we're giving back. We're giving back grants to our communities to start programs for recycling or food waste or just waste reduction. We have a community waste reduction grant, and we also have event waste reduction grants. We also will provide events with resources for their event, whether it would be, bins to put recyclables in. We do a lot of work with some of our festivals that we have here in Central Ohio. in our education program, I know, Ken, you've heard me say this before. My big push has been the kids, the young people coming in behind us, because this is really about us protecting that environment for them. And they know more about this subject than I ever did at their age. And I think we need to get into our schools and we need to talk to our elementary and our middle school kids about recycling, because they shame their parents into doing it. It's what they do. And so we do a robust job of giving teachers resources. We have a recycling champion program where if a school wants to create a green team, so to speak, we'll come out, we'll help you develop that. We'll help you with a food waste program. We'll help you with any kind of recycling program you want to do. We will come out and talk to your classrooms. We'll come out and talk to your administrators about recycling and those sort of things. We had an opportunity to go read to a bunch of first and second graders at a local city elementary school, and we just had so much fun talking to those kids about they knew the answers to every question we asked. You're trying to stump a second grader. You feel kind of bad because
No, they already on top of.
but our tours, we take landfill tours. We bring groups, we bring children. We had a senior living group come out not too long ago. We take them on a tour. We bring them into our currently our temporary education center to talk about it first, and then we put them on a bus and we bring them up and we educate them on how a landfill works and get to show them the inner workings of a landfill. I'm not sure when our next tour is, but we can certainly, if you get on our website, again, our website has so much information on there about our education.
You guys buy so many different types of compactors and all kinds of weird looking equipment in order to run this organization.
Yeah.
Have you all thought about after the tour cleaning some of those equipment up and do like a touch a truck inside?
Well, it's funny. We did when we set up our temporary education center. We had, if you ever seen the front of a compactor, it has those big wheels with big steel, looks like arrows basically, and they're just going over the trash and compacting it down. We had one that broke and we put it out front, and the kids just love it. And we are getting ready to build a new education center in the future. We've already started design of that education center. We're going to have interactive displays, and we are going to put a truck in there that the kids can sit in, maybe just a kind of a cab of it, and kind of give them a visual. But we're really looking forward to that new education center because we're going to make it more interactive. If you can picture an education center for waste, that kind of reminds you of COSI. The kids can touch it and feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Envisioning like virtual reality.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Truck crushing
Right.
trash and
Right.
going through like what a landfill worker
Yeah.
goes through.
Yeah.
Little kids still like to crush stuff, like the demo stuff.
Yeah.
And they could make a heck of a living.
Yeah.
out here,
That-
run over
yeah.
stuff, crush stuff.
Yeah, and one of the
Make
things,
way beyond a living wage, just run over and
Yep.
crush stuff with the
Just-
proper training.
good stress release. And two of the things that I want to make sure I mentioned is, number one, in 2025, as part of our budget, we are doing a scholarship program for high school students who want to study environmental sciences or environmental engineering or something in the environmental space. So the details of that are still being worked out, but our board, thanks to them, supported that in our budget. And that'll be, I think, the first time SWACO has ever provided scholarships to high school students.
I love that, Joe. I think that this is a field that is underexposed.
Mhm.
That's why the first time I saw your organization space at Biztown for junior achievement. I thought
Mentioned that as well.
that was just the beginning of what can be possible to let kids know about careers in solid waste disposal, because there's so many different components to it.
Yeah, and the junior achievement was the other point I wanted to make. We do support junior achievement. Biztown just recently, you mentioned Hannah earlier. Hannah and another staff member really worked hard on redoing our space, and it's really cool looking. We are, as part of our 2025, our executive team every quarter goes out and does something in the community. We are going to go spend a day there and help those kids who are trying to be me or trying to be Hannah, and we teach them how to work it. And so, that is a cool place. It's one of my favorite places to go. It's just really cool to see what those kids are getting excited about out there.
Yeah, and they really get into it too. It's representation and it's exposure that youth have to see in order to know about these career opportunities. And I tell you, SWACO is going places. You, Joe, were on the national news earlier this year. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so Nightly News with Lester Holt reached out to our communications team about food waste in the country and our Save More Than Food program. And so we had NBC Nightly News out, and we took a tour of our transfer station, and they did a whole story on food waste and the amount of waste that is coming into our landfills. It was actually great because it did get us national exposure. It was a New York Times article that was written. I think they bid on that, and then they decided to follow up with us. I wanted Lester to be there because I like some Lester now. I do like Lester Holt, but he was fine. Yeah, it was really cool experience for me, and it was a cool experience for our team. I think it was neat. A lot of people are still talking about it, so that means a lot of people saw it. So we were really proud, and we just started. Thank you for being on for me being on this podcast. We're going to have to reciprocate as we started a podcast ourselves called Waste Ed. Waste Ed.
When I first saw it, I saw wasted. I'm like, oh, they're gonna get in trouble. Wasted. I'm like, okay, now they're gonna say SWACO got a We So Wasted podcast, and then you got to go to explaining what that is.
Well, it was
Waste
Ed. Waste Ed, not wasted.
Waste
Ed. Yeah. So
not wasted.
So that's right. So what we do on that podcast and what we're trying to expose is recycling and reduction and bringing in companies and bringing in people and individuals who are doing some really cool things and talk about what they're doing in the space of environmental sustainability. And actually the name of that, it was interesting. Our safety manager came up with that name, and I thought the same thing you did when I first saw it. I'm like, waste? No, man, we can't talk now, because it was like right after the whole marijuana.
You could have great intro music if you'd have named it was named that.
But when but we've had a great time with it. We just recorded our 4th episode, and Hannah and I are the co-hosts, but we try to get 1 or 2 people on. It's a half hour, but we try to make it so that you can listen to it on the way to work. And I think we've gotten some really cool guests recently, but yeah, we'll have to get you on.
Subscribe to Waste Ed. The E and D is capitalized. Subscribe to it, SWACO. Had to make sure you might want to put the E and D not only in caps but bolded.
Yeah.
I think it might be though. You gonna have I've seen you on LinkedIn. It's a cool cover.
Yeah, I was a little worried about what the board would. I was a little worried about my board when we came out with the name of it, but they were all on.
I think your board all right.
They were all right.
They all
They're
right.
great supporters.
Yeah, you could have called it Trash Talk.
too.
Yeah, we were
Yeah, that
thinking
might
about
have
that,
been
but
one.
everybody does that, right? Trash talk, talking trash. So
Yeah. But it's good. Tell us a little bit also about your webcast series and what topics you cover on there, and how can residents participate?
Yeah, so we have a lot of webinars throughout the year. We have a variety of subject matters. Sometimes we'll talk about how do you do food composting at home? How can you get better at recycling at home? Business business recycling, trying to, as we now have a business recycling champions program, we're trying to build that up. We also talk about anything that's in the environmental space. And again, our website has a lot of that, but if you subscribe to our newsletter, we also mention them in our newsletter when the upcoming ones are. They're a wealth of information. They're done by our staff, who I said earlier are some of the most passionate people I have ever worked with, and they do a tremendous job at these, and they get great reviews. I mean, we haven't yet to hear anybody say your webinar wasn't informative, and so the more we can get people to listen to those and to learn a little bit more, because really, again, it's about changing behaviors, and that's really what we're trying to do is educate people and change behavior. We don't need you to be, the ultimate recycler, but give it a try, give it a run, just give it a little bit of effort. And because like anything else, Ken, working for the county, working for the city, you can't do it alone, right?
No.
The county doesn't have all the answers to everything, and the city doesn't have the answer to everything. It takes everybody. It takes a full community effort, it takes individual efforts. One of the things I'm thinking about, and I believe we're going to look into it, is an ambassador program in our communities where we find an individual or individuals in each of our 41 communities that go out and speak on our behalf to their communities about promoting, what's doing the right thing, just doing the right thing, not about SWACO, but just about the environment and doing the right thing. So, it's a really cool time right now to be the executive director. So
Right. The aspirational goal, based on everything you said, is for every resident to be educated on recycling that has an impact or has a way to influence the county's future. And if they do that every day, you will blow away the objectives of your 10-year solid waste plan.
That's right. Yeah. And so, and that's what my message has always been, it takes all of us in anything that we're doing. And in my role as the executive director, I believe my role is to bring the outside in, to bring the folks in the community in on what we're doing, to promote what we're doing, to brand us out there as the go-to person when it comes to waste management. Think of us first before you start a program. Give us a call. We've probably done it. We probably have some program that we can tailor to you. And it's really about being a community leader. That's who we are. I mean, we should be like everybody knows us as SWACO, as a landfill, but I want us to be known as a community leader in waste management.
So that's definitely the way to go. I'm gonna go off script and ask a couple questions. Yes. Are you beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Are you airplane or bus? I know the answer to this.
Well, I would prefer a car that I'm driving. Ken knows I'm not a big fan of planes.
I was thinking of it in memories of the great John Madden and the Madden.
Yes,
Madden,
that's
the
right.
bus.
That's right. He
The
would
great,
he never
the
went
great
to the
John
purple
Madden, the
because it was in
coach,
Hawaii.
never flew And I think in his honor, this Thanksgiving, they put one of the Madden Expresses on the road.
Yeah.
The crew rode it.
Yeah,
That's why I said bus. I wasn't going to say car or airplane
yeah.
because I knew the answer to the question.
I would take a bus, but I will fly just so the listeners know it's not fun for me. But yeah.
You don't like mass. You don't like to be in the air. Is it turbulence? What is it that gets to
So
big strong guy, former offensive lineman, college football player,
it's
in an airplane?
it's
I'd rather not do that.
yeah, it's not the confinement that doesn't bother me. It's so I'm good until we start moving, and then once that wheel starts, once they start backing up, I know I either I flip out or I just hang in there, right? And so we're good. And then when they hit that gas and they get going, I was like, oh, here we go. And once it gets up, I'm a little nervous. Once it's at 30,000, I'm okay if it's nice, right? If it's nice and smooth. But when it starts this,
Do you like bigger planes?
I've been on smaller planes.
Bigger planes.
Yeah,
and I fly all the time. The bigger the plane, the better I feel.
Coming down,
I don't like to be told to duck.
Yeah,
On the wrong size plane, often I'm asked to duck.
And coming down is troublesome for me. Just depends on the weather. I really believe it's about the turbulence, right? And I've only probably flown maybe 3 times where I thought this is it. This is how it's going to end, right?
This is how it's going to end. So I don't have to worry about your passport getting full of stamps.
I got 1 stamp, and I've had that passport for 10 years. And I got it because my daughter was studying over abroad, and I had to go if something was going to happen.
You boy so the only kind of passport you
so
like
if
to get stamps on is a beer tour or a pizza tour.
Right. So when they see my passport, they're looking. Like, really, one, and you've had it for 10 years. I'm the guy that gets questioned. So,
you could drive to Canada or Mexico.
Yeah, I want to do that. I want to drive to Canada. I haven't been to Canada. I'd love to go to Canada.
I was gonna digress, and I was about to go into topics but I'm not going to because the thought of international travel and such. But I'm not going to right now.
Yeah.
Joe, it's been a pleasure talking with you about SWACO and all the exciting things that you all are doing and taking this opportunity to hopefully get the word out about just how important SWACO is to this region and this region's advancement.
Well, thank you for having me, Ken. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully I was able to impart some wisdom on your
and thank you, yes, and thank you to all of the listeners of Talk of the County. And I'm going to conclude with my ending. Do you, because nobody else has time.